You might be a farm and ranch specialist. You might be a luxury specialist. You might be
Nancy and I both sell dirt.
You're a something specialist.
REO.
REO specialist. Right? So
Oreos?
Used to be called Oreo.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s.
It actually was.
So
Other real estate.
Other real estate owners. As opposed to the yeah.
So what are we learning here?
So it was a learning moment because somebody, one of our agents, went onto our private Facebook page, which is a great resource, and says, okay, who's our genius commercial?
Oh, my
I
God.
made a mistake.
I saw that.
I made a mistake. Well, it is Heather and Jim, right? But what I didn't realize was Brett is also paying Keller Williams commercial $125 a month to be a certified commercial Keller Williams agent. Didn't know that.
Right.
So, from a recruiting aspect and from an agent aspect, all of us need to know who our commercial specialists are, who our luxury specialists are, who our REO specialists are, who our property management specialists are, because with 170-something agents, you don't...
Right.
My group specializes in crazy people.
No, I got that market.
Well, I don't know about that.
I'll take all the newbies.
I'm a nap specialist, so.
Nap, what's that?
That's where we take naps.
I hope he's getting all this on recording.
So
I wonder what those initials meant on your badge.
That would be,
NAP.
that would be helpful if we uploaded it to our files page on our Facebook page, or maybe you all had one in your email somewhere that you could refer to, or a flyer or a sheet of who the
Maybe they
specialists
could
are.
take our phone directory and add a column if anyone has a specialty.
We could do that too.
Just keep it updated, send it out once a month.
I don't know that we give access. Do you all have access to the roster?
We do.
Yes,
I don't
to
know.
who?
Yeah.
It's on the agent
phone roster.
Dropbox.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
all
get it
right,
once in a while.
all right.
Yeah, how else would we get each other's personal phone numbers going in?
Yeah, I've asked Alan to make a switch from Dropbox to Google Drive. Because Dropbox, you gotta log in to Dropbox, you gotta remember your username and password, and Google's are already in, because Google is our platform. I'm assuming everybody's using Google, right? Gmail? Some form of Gmail?
Yep.
Sometimes.
What are you
Get an account.
using, Chris? Does everybody know Crystal over there? Do you use
know.
Gmail?
She and I go a long ways back.
I don't know what I'm using. I am not tech savvy.
You're talking about
Well, you can't say that.
the Google Calendar?
Google Calendar?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't
You
use
don't use
that.
Google?
I use my iPhone. I tell
Do you use
Siri everything.
Gmail?
Yeah, that's
Her and
right.
I go way
What
back.
email address do you
Don't
use?
Get a
have
Gmail account,
So,
even if you don't use it for
I
your
have a
email.
United Home Group one, and I have a KW one, and I have an AOL one. I'm all of the above.
AOL. She's not even
AOL.
old enough to have.
She's using
All the
Netscape as a
institute
browser.
in your ear, and little people, and then
your-
connecting.
Your KW account is your Gmail account.
Oh, there you go. I'm on there.
so like tomorrow?
There you go.
No, I don't know.
So who's in
And it
charge
gives
of
me-
the
I can
show?
I'll
barely
get
keep
you
up
going.
with this calendar.
Right. But it's a great calendar.
I'll get you going.
I've got dinner at 6, just so you know.
Yeah, we're playing darts at,
Fine.
we're playing darts at 6.
It's a good app.
I
Okay,
got no
I'll try.
Yeah, I've got like 3 places to go.
No, it's not a sponsor. No.
Are these for the whiteboards?
Well, I think this is just paper.
Yeah, that's just
Flip chart,
paper.
flip chart. Okay, so, I don't know what you got, what John set you guys up for, but does everybody know Nancy, Les, Vicky, and Cynthia?
Nancy Less. Oh, Nancy
Nancy,
Less.
Les, Vicky, and Cynthia.
It's Nancy's more.
Well, it's obvious who's the smartest person on this bill.
It's not me.
Everybody know everybody?
Yes.
Everybody know everybody?
I think
Okay. So you didn't have any agenda actually set, John, for this, right?
The pricing. Just talking about pricing.
That's our mastermind on it, right?
Yeah.
So are we talking about price adjustments?
No, pricing.
Pricing up front and price adjustments, I think we can
Yeah,
cover both
adjustments.
topics.
Pricing, and why is that important, pricing? Because we are in a shifting market, right?
Flattening.
You don't believe it, Les?
No.
Who believes that we're in a shifting market?
Shifting which way?
From a seller's market to a buyer's market.
I think we already shifted. I think we're there.
I guess I would almost, that's what I'm being sucked into, I guess.
Well, when we do our language of real estate, we're seeing more listings taken and less listings sold. So we're assuming that it's turned, that
Our
buyers.
inventory, if you look at our monthly inventory, went from 7 months of inventory in January down to 3.5 months of inventory in April.
I think we're just on a level
I
market
do
We're-
too.
Okay, so,
compared to 2018, so far year-to-date 2019.
okay, all right.
And we're
Does
also
everybody
in
know what
those
a shift
markets where
is,
our
right?
listings go way up for the season and then they start dropping off,
Okay.
so.
So,
That's
so
normal.
if we were looking, seller's market, buyer's market on that teeter-totter, we're pretty stable right now?
I would say so.
And you gotta remember, there's always pockets
Yeah.
of where,
Price, it depends on price range sometimes, right?
Well, price range has a big.
and location.
Right? I've been in shifts in the market where nothing above $500,000 was selling, but that hot spot of 250 to 350 was still slamming it, right? So the good news is it's easier to have a conversation like this when it's not shifting one way or the other, because otherwise you're having tough conversations, fierce conversations with your clients about price reductions, which some of us are having, some agents are having, but it's not as present as some other markets. So let's talk about pricing, right? We want to talk about pricing. Is there any burning questions from the audience? Is there any one burning question that you want to ask these experts? And they all, in their own minds, are experts. No, they all are experts, listing experts. Is there any burning question you want to ask about pricing that's killing you to know? No, you just want to hear from the best, right? So who wants to give some ideas about their best pricing strategies and how you present that to your sellers?
Maybe the question is, how do we come up with the pricing?
That's a good one.
Maybe
Let's
there's some
let's find out what the topics are. How
Yeah.
do we price property? Okay, let's pick another subject matter. How do we price one?
And then how does that discussion go with the seller, especially in the day and age where they're receiving Zestimates and Trulias and all that stuff? How does that conversation?
Okay, less giggled. How do we compete? That's a good one. Zestimates.
We know that they're obviously inaccurate, but just having that discussion with the seller without coming across as being pompous but confident.
Right. So let's talk about, let's start with how do we price property and some of the tools and some of the processes that you guys go. So somebody just go ahead and talk about, when you're preparing yourself for a listing presentation. Nancy?
One of the biggest things that I have found, and I've learned this firsthand, I do those estate sales. When I have a listing that they have the estate sale, I stand at the front door for 3 days during the estate sale, talk to everybody coming in, tell them that the house is for sale. All right. And I have really met some interesting people over the years that I've done that. There was one couple that came to me, and the woman was furious. She said, "Nancy, I have had 3 different agents," and she named them, come to the house, and none of them have the comps to my house. So I went over then to the house, and hopefully I'll get the listing at the end of the year because they went back up north. But what happened is everybody that came in there used, is it Realist?
Realist.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Realist to get their
Or
comps.
RPR. RPR also gives out.
Okay.
But that
And
would
when
pay
they
more
went
back.
in,
Yeah.
Realist has never changed the date on the house that house was destroyed, tore down, and a brand new, beautiful house put on there. And so right away, they said they just go in and punch in the address, and all of a sudden they come up with this beautiful piece of paper, she says, and it's not right. So this is where I said, because when she was telling me that, I go, what are you talking about? If your house is a, whatever it was, 215 and not a 1972 house, how can you not see that? Well, when we went back through, they haven't updated it in that system. So if you're an agent and going out on that listing, you need to do your own homework, and you need to go in and check your own ones that match it. Because I went in and it was totally different than what the other 3 agents had given her. And they were upset. I mean, they were literally upset.
So doing as much research as you can even before you.
Oh yeah, and you
On
got to
your first
do it
meeting.
by yourself. Don't count on these programs Well, you throw in an address and 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, that's almost, you might as well use Zillow or
Because that's what they have to
Zestmate.
do.
Zesty.
Yeah, because it was, they were really upset, so, they, you know, I went through all of that, and, I mean, they've got a strong $600,000 house that I'm hoping to get.
So you're gonna do, your due diligence before you invest.
Oh, yeah, you have to know your stuff. Don't come
Put on the
this-
county appraiser's website and to see what things are, at what point the permits have been pulled or something. If it's likely, and if it's a 1970 house, it's likely to have been remodeled. You know, you need to drive by the house, you need to see, you know, you actually see from the outside. You know, there's a lot of things of that nature. to
Big
do.
difference. I mean,
Yeah,
even,
and sometimes you'll see, built in 1971, effective age, a totally
Yes.
different one.
So if I'm correct, right, some of the tools that you use are MLS. What's the county, what's that thing
County
called?
website.
Marco, Mako, Moxo, what is that thing
The
called?
county?
CC appraiser? What do you mean?
CC
I start with the appraiser site,
too.
and then I go in.
What is that called?
It's just,
Well,
just the
Charlotte
CC
County
appraisers.
appraisers.
Charlotte
Charlotte
County
County,
appraisers.
Charlotte
Center.
County appraisal site.
CC appraisal.
And everybody's familiar with that, right?
Yes.
And then you do your building permit site.
Yeah, and the building.
Building
That's a
permit
different
site?
Because that's
search.
permits to do any kind of upgrades if they're doing it within the law, so.
And that's not gonna be in the property appraisal
No,
department.
it
It
will not
goes to
be.
the
That's
building
separate.
department.
You gotta go to the building
permits.
department.
Permit.
So what are you looking at on CC appraiser? Specific?
I look at, the tax rolls,
Yeah,
I look at the actual tax breakdown, and I look at the aerial. The aerial, I look to see if it's flood or scrub J.
yeah.
Another thing that I do, and I don't do this till I get the listing, and this is so important, and this is one of the big things that I wanted to talk about today too, was if we have gotten more E&O issues by somebody saying the house is on city water and sewer, and it is not. I mean, you can get into big trouble with that. And there's one going on right now that I caught wind of the other day. So what I do is once I get the listing, Eunice has a procedure, and she will directly send a paper, here it is, utility availability for water and sewer. She does these steps, sends it directly to Charlotte County, and they send us back a form that says it has this and not that.
That's,
So you
it's all on
verify
the, it's all on the CCU website, you can do it, you can fill out the form right on their site.
Yeah.
And get a response back in 24 to 48 hours.
Really?
Oh, and you have to do that. I
You
do
mean
it
I've
for
never told you
vacant
that?
lots, and now I do it for houses.
So-
And I inherited a listing a while back that said it was supposed to have city sewer and water. Well, it had city water, and guess what? It had septic. So, I mean, we could be in deep trouble. We're gonna
Right.
get
Just
it.
a caveat to that, if you're listing in Northport, or in
Oh.
Sarasota County, on the Sarasota County Property Appraiser site, you can link to the building permits, first of all, so it's a real quick, easy link. And you can also just Google City of Northport and water sewer availability, and you put in the address, and it'll, or the property ID number, and it'll just tell you right then and there if it's city water.
And
sewer.
that's nice. They have a nice,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
But-
sorry.
But don't guess, even, I was out on a listing appointment this week, the lady had no idea if they had water and sewer or just water. I said, well, how much do you pay?
Yeah.
Well, I'm really not sure. Well, I wouldn't believe her anyway.
Well, you can tell by you can look at the water bill online too, and you can tell
Yeah,
from
and
that,
then
because
you
you can
can
see what
know.
they're being charged,
But
and you don't have
I
to
always
wait
look
for
at the
that.
water bill.
I still go through and get that form, because it'll save your,
But the
Yeah.
water bill tells you the sewer charge, the base water
Right,
charge,
no, I
so
understand.
you got it on that too, if you just say
Yeah.
a
The
copy of that.
CCU, it's really a wealth of information, just to even go over to the utilities office, because they give classes, they're so helpful. If you've got questions about this, that, or the other, they're very, very helpful. So, you know, anytime there's classes available over there, I would suggest people take them.
What's it called, ccu.com?
CC appraiser.
CC appraiser.
So CCU is Charlotte County.
CCU.
Facility.
Okay,
yeah.
so
But
can I
it's like,
take this
for the
control?
water and sewer is charlottecountyfl.gov.
Yeah.
That's what that one is.
So if I can take it to a different direction, and, you know, and from, REO is not what all I do, but, you know, with bank owns, they they want to look at the most you can get in the shortest possible time.
Right.
So I have to think of that, and also sometimes with estates, not always. But I have one right now on Breeze Swept that I'm working with the family, and the father died suddenly. She spent a few days here. She's totally having panic attacks and all this, and she has all these people around saying what it's worth.
Oh.
And so she says, I want this property, so I want it gone. So in that case, I'm looking at, no, I wouldn't call it that quick sale to her, but I'm looking more for a quick sale, still giving her fair value.
So motivation plays a big part.
Big part.
Right, in pricing property.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things we do is, for lack of a better term, is needs analysis, right? How motivated are they? You ever,
Motivation plays a big role in whether or not you want to take the listing.
right. Well, yeah, who's ever gone into a house and you're doing your presentation, or you're there to help do a pricing strategy, and the person says to you, well, I don't really need to sell. How do you respond?
And I'm not giving it away.
And I'm not giving it away. I'm in no rush. I don't really need to sell, and I'm not giving it away. How do you guys respond to that?
It depends. I mean,
Les, you ever close up your folder and just get up and walk out?
No, I just respond and say, I don't have to sell your house either. I mean, that's how I do it. I just, if that's how they want to be, then for me, it's the same way coming back. Sometimes those kind of character personality traits like that.
Yeah.
And so, but it's also true, I'm not going to take an overpriced, I don't do much listings anymore anyway, but when I did, I didn't take overpriced listings. And if I was to gamble on overpriced listings, I had built-in price decreases on the listing.
Can we talk about that, Seth?
That's
Thank
good.
you for saying that. I think many of you have probably gotten wise to this sometimes. If you do take an overpriced listing, and we'll get back to how do we price properties in a second, but I used to myself, even in my listing package, if they would sign a listing contract with me, and I knew it was overpriced, they'd also execute 3 price reductions that would automatically execute every 21. I used to do 3 weeks, 21 days. Would go down by 10 grand. 20, so I didn't have to call them up and say, hey, can you sign that price reduction form 21? And they changed their mind. No, they're committing to price reductions the day you take the listing, which is what you used to do.
If you can get them to do that, I
If
think
you
it's
can.
great.
Yeah, it's powerful if you can get them to
It
do that.
definitely is.
Right.
So even the best agents do sometimes take overpriced listings, because they know they'll get the open houses and maybe some buyers.
Sign calls.
Sign calls.
And if I could add something,
Yep.
if you mainly are selling and listing in Port Charlotte or Northport, and all of a sudden you get kind of a not so great house in Venice, you can't take that attitude from Port Charlotte to Venice, because Venice is hot, hot, hot.
Okay.
And so you've got to really learn your area as to what.
All right, so doing market due diligence before you even visit the home, and I want, before I move on, I want to guys ask you a question. Do you do a 1 appointment pricing presentation or a 2 appointment price or listing presentation?
One.
You bring your market analysis with you.
Oh, yeah.
I do too.
It depends on if we
Yeah.
show, if we completely present it, but we have it ready.
Les, what's your theory on that?
It's one.
1?
I even have the contract ready to go too, as well on computer.
Everything I give them the listing packet.
Okay, so here's what we go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, when I had the situation where all of a sudden you walk in with everything, and you haven't seen the house at all, and you walk in and you say, oh, let me rip mine up.
Yeah, that's honest.
Rip what up?
The market analysis I did.
A market analysis, if all of a sudden you say, wow, this is a lot nicer. I mean, I like to walk in with my stuff, but I also know that sometimes I might tell the seller that, I'm gonna be looking at your house too. I'm gonna bring some numbers, but if I haven't seen the inside of your house, I may change my numbers. I give them a little heads up that could happen.
But if you do this market analysis summary sheet after you've tagged your listings,
Right.
it boils it down to
And what tool
minimum,
is that?
maximum, average.
It does,
MLS?
right.
And
But depending on if you chose the right
That's
comps.
the
If you
Chris
got the
CM
right
has.
Because once you
A
get
quick
there, you might
CM.
say, oh, these comps
Right.
weren't even close, I need to go find
But
new
that
comps.
doesn't happen too often.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
And you taught me that anyway, so I'm.
And it helps, because I'll just say, this is about average, and then
Yeah.
you and you eyeball it, you
You're
just
right,
kinda.
you're right.
There was I was in real estate 110 years now, but I remember when there wasn't enough data to be able to get away with a 1 listing appointment. You had to go, you had to preview, you had to go back to your office, do your market analysis or CMA as we call them, and then revisit. But nowadays, with the information that's out there, you should be able to do a one visit pricing presentation or listing presentation, right?
Well, we have so many cookie cutter houses. I mean, what are our floor plans? Living room, dining room, family room, or the great room floor plan, the dining room. That's about it, unless you get into the bigger homes or, you know, some of the acreage homes, but that's usually, so that's easy.
Yeah.
I like that.
And that does really depend upon the part of the country you're in. Like in New England, it's hard to do because you can, one neighborhood could have a $150,000 home and the next house over could be $350,000. And then 2 miles down the road, there's another $35,000 trailer. I mean, it's just weird,
Or
right?
try Arcadia.
Right.
Let me tell you about the neighborhood I was in DC last week.
Expensive?
They ranged anywhere from $1.5 million to, the highest one I saw was 15 million, 11 bedrooms and 12 full baths and 5 half baths.
Wow. Wow. So, so we talked about you're doing a one appointment listing presentation. Let's get back to pricing. What is and educate me a little bit because I'm not used to the Florida MLS. What tool is MLS that you do your CMAs through?
Me?
Yes.
Just the
You?
MLS.
MLS?
do.
Less?
Yep.
MLS? Is that cloud CMA or?
Yeah, you can use the cloud CMA, that's what I usually use.
Okay.
And I never use it.
You can use the
I
RPR,
like that better.
CMA.
Now, I personally am a fan of RPR. Has anybody ever used the RPR? Anybody know?
I do what Nancy taught me, keeping it simple and doing that. And then the first time I ever heard RPR, it was at a meeting, at a team meeting a year ago, and you talked about RPR. So what I do is I do Nancy's, what Nancy's taught me, and then I go back and I do the RPR, just so I have a couple
I know,
things.
it gives
No,
you
is
a-
it
Just-
is it NARRPR?
RPR.
The website
It's on the homepage.
is narrpr.com.
Okay, NARRPR.com.
Yeah.
But it's on the homepage of.
Yeah,
It's
it's on our
It's
homepage
a
of
little
Matrix.
icon.
You know, it's got all the links,
I don't know, I just always.
form simplicity, and
Right.
So why I like
it's there. RPR's in there.
RPR is because they not only include sales data through the MLS, but they're also adding county data as well.
Yeah.
And just like a Zestimate, and this is the funny thing about Zestimates that a lot of people don't know, but I'll get back to that in a second. About RPR, you ever all pull up an RPR and have, a star rating, 1
Yes.
star to 5
Yes,
stars?
right.
And the more stars there are, the more accurate they think they are.
Yes.
Yes.
But RPR will allow you to change the property features if there's anything incorrect, and it will revise it based on that. So
Yeah.
if it was like the one where Zillow said it was built in 72,
Yeah.
and if RPR said it was built in 72, you could change it to say it was built in 2015, and it will update, which
Right, it
you
will
can't do
adjust
with
the
Zillow.
numbers. And here's the beauty of that, RPR, because you can change the features and change the range. What I like about it is, for very little effort, it looks like you did a lot of work.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Well,
If you
so-
want to impress your client.
Yeah, what I
Right.
do is, I do this, what you did, what Nancy does, with just the quick CMA.
Yeah.
And depending on my customers, if it's a D personality, they're getting the quick CMA. But if I've got somebody that is like a, S or something like that, then I take those numbers and I go into RPR and I find those exact same comps that I had, and I do the 32-page report with all the neighborhood data and crime statistics and
And it's really not a long time.
give them a lot of stuff to read.
Yeah.
Do you know what RPR stands for? It's Realtor Property Resource.
Right, and it has every parcel of property in the United States.
So because you pay realtor dues, you have the ability to create an account on here, literally load your photo, your headshot up there once you get one you like, and contact information.
Somebody else's.
Or somebody else's. And literally, you can do a seller's report. There's like 100 different reports, a
Yeah.
seller's report,
There's a
listing
mini report, a
mini
buyer's
report.
report.
That's right.
Yeah, the mini report is great to take to an open house.
And it puts this beautiful cover page of you and all your contact information on.
Yeah.
It prints off all this crap with housing data, weather, crime, all kinds of
Demographics,
things.
all
Yeah.
Demographics.
A lot of times I don't give all that though.
Yeah.
I try to dumb
Well,
it
I pick which
down.
pages I want.
Unless you have an engineer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, right. So it is a good tool, and sometimes it can be very accurate, sometimes it can't, but you can make adjustments and make it look as pretty as
Well,
you
you can
want.
finagle the numbers just
Sure.
like you can anywhere to make it be what you want it to be, so.
So there was a time, so that's another great tool, RPR. Is there any other tools that we use as agents for doing a market analysis?
I just want to go back to CC Appraiser's website. The other thing I always click on in that is building sketch and look at it,
Yes,
because I've
yes,
had
I
people
use
that
that.
have,
I got that one, yeah.
you know,
That's
tell
a
me
good
that
one.
they've got 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and you get there and you find out that the 3rd bedroom is the garage, and, you know, so if you look at that building sketch too, it'll give
Yeah.
you, not only that, but it'll give you measurements, and you can tell if like a Florida room has been enclosed and if it's permitted and what, if it's not added in the square footage, you can see what it is. I mean, there's just, that building sketch is just real helpful.
Now, I guess doing a market analysis is probably a class all by itself, isn't it? That's an art form all by itself.
Well, everybody does a little bit differently.
Different.
Yeah.
Fortunately, maybe probably unfortunate for me, because my degree is, 100 years ago in engineering, but I also had the opportunity to take the Fannie Mae appraisal course, which then now makes when I was in production, made my CMAs drive people freaking nuts. Because it wasn't just room sizes and room count and square footage, it was quality, which is a Q number, right? You see on appraisal reports, condition, a C. So I was driving people nuts with those things. So you can get here's the thing, right? Wouldn't you agree? You got to be prepared, like you said.
Yeah.
But I came from a market where people would just go into MLS and print off the list of sold listings and go, you're somewhere in here,
I've seen that.
without having a prepared
Yes.
CMA, right? And you got to have that when you walk through the door. And we probably should have a class just on using those tools to create a good CMA.
Well, and you gotta show them what their competition is.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if we listed here, here's your competition. So we want those houses to sell your house. We don't want your house to be selling all of those. So if we get a price right, then your house will get sold. Otherwise, they're gonna be looking at your house.
Think about
And you're
that.
just helping out these other sellers by selling their house for
We
them.
call those pinball listings, right?
We call it putting the fish where the fish are.
Putting the fish where the fish are. I mean, that's great. How many times have you done a CMA and you get done doing your comps, your sales comps, and you come up with one price? Then you go look at the competition, you go, we can't compete with these. So now you have to think, right?
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah, that's what, I was happy she brought that up, because you're right, you gotta look at the
Well, and
actors.
a lot of
Right.
times I come out the other way where I'm lower and I'll look at the actives and it's like, man, if we put it at this price, it should sell overnight.
Which is,
So.
So you might
Just-
tweak it up just a little, because it's still lower than
Yeah,
the,
yeah, exactly.
So-
I think it's really important on that point is that when you can leave with your customer, the active listings with the photos of the inside of the homes, because then they can take their time and look through, like, how does my house compare to that house? And it really is,
Well, it's okay. How many people have done this before? You leave them the 3 active comps that they got to compete with, and you say, get in your car, go look at these things.
Well, and I'll tell them, just go on Realtor.com and look at the pictures.
Mhm.
I don't print the pictures, you've got
Yeah.
the MLS number right here, just
Yeah.
go look at the pictures.
the
and-
pictures inside. yeah,
Online
that's
and
true.
see what you're competing with, and see if you think your house is up to the same standard as
Yeah,
what that house,
exactly.
these houses are.
and sometimes I concentrate on more of what has sold, because this is what the
Right.
market is.
Yeah.
right.
I mean, everybody thinks their house is the Taj Mahal,
Mhm.
and we only know that yours is the only Taj Mahal, I'll say that once in a while, just to kind of poke fun.
You
at
talking
it.
about Les's house?
Yeah, that's such a dump. So, anyway, but it's what has sold, that's the market.
Yeah, that's the market, that's the
Yeah,
reality.
lately haven't invited
We
us.
haven't
Do you go back,
Yeah.
do you do like 180 days, 360?
I don't go past 180.
Don't go past 180,
Yeah.
that's
So
true.
what
And
what
when I
you're
get too many
referring
comps,
to,
I go to 90
Yeah.
days.
so we had this rule in Fannie Mae, and this is what they're referring to. We did 3 months, 3 miles, 3 comps. Was it 3? Now, it's hard to do that.
I thought they wanted within 1 mile.
So,
Oh, they do.
up in New England,
Okay.
I mean, we're not very congested.
Okay, yeah, down here it's
Yeah.
with
So
1
what
mile
would your rules,
radius.
you say 180 days back? So
That's the most.
That's usually what I do.
So don't go back any further, but how many months
Well,
is it? 6?
can I
Six.
disagree slightly? There's times with certain type of properties, if I'm doing a condo in November, that I might want to search from January to April,
Okay,
just
Yes.
to help me out.
so you go
Or
back,
you can't find enough comps, you have to go back a year or something like that. I bet there's
Or stay your
exceptions.
range.
Yeah,
and especially down here, tell me guys, from your expertise, is how important it is to stay in the same
2 mile.
neighborhood?
Mile radius.
Well,
I think it,
Depends
yeah,
on the
again, it
property.
depends on
I
the
mean,
property.
yeah.
you know.
Here's the thing, I mean, you could be Peachland, what is that, section 15 or
Yeah,
whatever over
section
there?
15, yeah,
And
sure.
then 3/4 of a mile away, you're on Midway, and it's,
Yeah.
and it's,
Different price point.
Yeah, you wanna
If
stay
you're
in
Deep
similar
Creek, you wanna
neighborhoods,
stay
not.
in Deep Creek.
That's where the
Yes.
agent has to know the
I
neighborhoods.
compared
If they don't,
Deep
they need
Creek
to go
to
tour
section
them
15 a
because.
lot
Too.
because it's,
Right.
because I
There's
have
just
more with
so
buyers
much
that are
difference
taking
in-
both places.
So let me ask you, on that note, not only do you have to know be a specialist in the neighborhoods, yes, you have the easy part that the floor plans are very similar, the styles are very similar, but what you have is these different neighborhood idiosyncrasies, but you also have canal rules. What's this all about? One canal might be better than the next canal.
Freshwater to saltwater.
Freshwater
Well,
and
yeah.
sailboat
Access.
versus
Yeah.
powerboat, you know.
So that affects the value, right?
And time out.
And time out?
How
Time
long?
out to the harbor.
Time out.
Oh, time
I wouldn't
out.
even
Why,
say-
what was bad?
It could be,
I don't think you were
one side of the
outside.
street in the aisles could be 40 minutes and the other side could be 15,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
it's- there's
So when
a
you're
big-
doing your price adjustments, how do you put a number on that?
I use the swag method.
Swag? Talk to me about the swag method.
Silly wild ass guess.
I use my little eyeball, or my little target. I got this,
Oh, that's cute.
when I first started in real estate 20 years ago, I used to go to Star Power every year with Nancy Andre, all right? And they gave this out one of the years, and I'm telling you, it works. If you got drive-bys only and nobody wants to come in, you're 12% or more off your mark. If you have drive-ups only and low number of showings, you're anywhere from 6 to 12% off. If you have showings but no offers, 4 to 6% off. And if you got offers, that means you're right on. And I'm telling you, I have used
That's
this
pretty
and
cool.
used this and used
So
this.
I've seen that in various forms and shape, but
Yeah.
that is
That's
valuable.
Oh, it's so valuable.
Very visceral.
And when I
And-
change, usually we have showings and no offers, and if you have 7 showings and no offers, then I go at them. And we're coming down at least 5%.
Yeah.
So, and there's some real data when you're sitting with your clients and
Yeah.
you say, well, we talked about this, right? We've had, X number of showings, we're off by 6 or 12%. These are real, these aren't made up, that's from the
No,
National
it's not
Association.
what you
of
know.
Realtors.
Can we get NARs? I think
Can we
NARs
get a copy of that?
Yeah.
last,
I will
most
give you
recent
that one,
was,
I'll check this one.
3 weeks with no
I've
showings or
already
10
just
showings
my
with
life.
no offers.
Somebody run over to the printer real
I've
quick.
got to see.
Well, listen,
That
you know
answers your
what?
question. I don't put, as far as listings on out to the harbor, I don't put much value.
You don't put a value.
No.
So back to your swag, and thank you for saying that, because one of the reasons I went to the Fannie Mae appraisal course all those years ago is because I wanted to know what I wanted to know the numbers on those
But if it's
adjustments.
up Pelham Waterway versus something right off Collinswood near,
Yeah.
It does make a difference.
It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
So you gotta take that into
That's true,
consideration.
that part it is.
But sometimes it's just a guess.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, and I used to underwrite appraisals.
Yeah.
I used to underwrite mortgages. And I had an example today of one that came in low, and the buyer's agent got a copy and sent it over to me, and our contract included an extra lot, and that wasn't taken into consideration in the value, and the contract was contingent on the seller installing a brand new roof, which he spent 10 grand and put on a new metal roof, and he had it listed as a 15-year-old asphalt roof, and so, like, appraisers make mistakes. I had a whole long list, and I told the other agent, there's more too, but I'm not gonna tell you what the other ones are, because they would
Yeah.
probably make the value go down. But these are the ones that should bring it up, so,
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
no,
yeah.
what's that, matter of fact, I was good friends with Howard Britton myself.
Oh,
all those years
wasn't he
ago.
awesome?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
he's just,
he used to use
that's
some
where I
guy-
met Gary Keller.
Is that
Was at
right?
one of the sessions, many,
No
many
kidding.
years ago, yeah.
I'm aging myself now.
I never went to the Remax stuff, but I
No.
always went to Star Power every year.
But he would say things like, he would use his doctor dialogue, doctor script, even if a heavy person went into the doctor and says, I got bad knees, I got bad knees, and the doctor says, the only thing that's gonna help you get better knees is to lose some weight. And it's the same thing with a house. An overweight house is never going to sell. The knees are never going to get better. That was kind of the analogy he used. I probably screwed that up really bad.
No,
He's
you
probably
didn't.
rolling over in his grave right now.
Yeah.
But I think you get the gist there. It doesn't matter, even flying a plane over the neighborhood with one of those banners behind it,
Yeah,
marketing
that
it,
was the other
if
one.
it's overpriced, it's still not going to sell.
Right.
well, sometimes we need to use our expertise though you might have a gorgeous house, but it's all junked out.
Yep.
and no curb appeal, and you can give them some great help.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can do this, then you can do this.
Who uses stagers?
Oh, well, I'd encourage stagers, but I don't have a stager. I think
I know.
Crystal had a question.
Crystal?
I think stagers are okay. I'm not a real fan of them. I think if you have a neat, clean house, it's just as good.
Neat, clean, and uncluttered.
And
Yeah,
cluttered,
neat, clean,
and
and
the
uncluttered.
curb appeal is.
Uncluttered or decluttered?
Uncluttered, well, it should be uncluttered, so they need to declutter it to
Clutter
make it
to
be
unclutter.
uncluttered. Splitting hairs here.
I think sometimes it depends on the floor plan though, because if you got a
With
weird
the
floor
clutter?
plan,
Yes,
and
that's
people
true.
can't imagine where the furniture's going.
Yeah.
Because
I
some
mean, I
people
lost the
can't.
listing one time
Yeah.
because it expired because we didn't stage it, and then the people that took it over staged it. Sold
Was it
the
one of
darn
ours?
thing. Well, they did drop the price.
Oh, that might make a little difference.
Yeah, I think
You can
that-
also, there's a lot of programs like virtual staging now that you can do
Have you
online.
seen those houses that are vacant? But they don't look vacant online?
No, they just,
But you gotta disclose
you
it.
have to
Yeah.
disclose it,
Yeah,
but
that's okay.
Crystal did have a
Crystal, yeah, what was your question?
It was kind of going back to the CMA, when you're doing the 3 miles, or 3 months, and then the 3 miles. If you can't find anything in that, what is your max mileage that you would use?
I go up.
Until
Yeah, if I'm in Port Charlotte, and I'll go up to the zip code within reason and do a map.
So you use
Because
use the map.
it's a suburban
Oh, yes, I use
area
the map.
that.
And I'll go east of 41 or west of 41.
Yeah, and the
here's how I
zip
do
codes
it.
are very specific in Port Charlotte, 33952, or, I stay in the zip code 33948, because they're kind of,
That's my
they.
zone, get out of there.
Where she's hungry.
I know, yeah.
But if it's waterfront, you're gonna use 33948 and 339.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
5-3, or, I mean, you can.
Well, yeah, you gotta make sure you use.
5-3 and 4-8, you can kind of mix, or whatever.
John, what's your take on
So-
that?
I was gonna say, well, like I have a listing that is, 20 acres worth of property in the middle of nowhere with a 1-bedroom apartment sitting on the middle of
There
it.
you go.
I need, I
You might
need
wanna call
to
that
do,
out.
I need to do DeSoto County, I needed to do Lee County, I needed to go everywhere
Price
to find
increases
condos.
automatically in your listing contract.
Yes.
So I just want to,
Chase the bull.
You just do the wag on that
It's gonna
one.
be a swag, yep.
Crystal, what I do, I usually do 1 mile radius, because usually you can find plenty within a mile, but sometimes the property's unique, you can't. So I try to look at it like, if I was working with a buyer and looking for this kind of house, what neighborhoods would I show a buyer? So like Cynthia said, she does Deep Creek against Deep Creek, but I know if I take a buyer out, they're probably gonna like Section 15 just as well as Deep Creek, so I might use both of those neighborhoods. But I just try to make sure I'm using similar neighborhoods and similar qualities. But a buyer isn't gonna care if you take them 5 miles this way or 5 miles that way when they're picking out their house, as long as they like the.
Because they both have water and sewer.
I mean,
One has
it's
senior citizens, one
waterfront,
doesn't.
it's waterfront, and so you kind of can take into consideration now learning that, if it's 15 minutes to the harbor, or if it's 45 minutes to the harbor.
Yeah.
Um,
I do keep
pool or
Pine
no
Bird
pool.
and
If
Port
it has
Charlotte
a pool, would
separate.
you use a comp that, if it does not have a pool, would you use a comp that has a pool and just
Sometimes.
take off the 25,000?
If that's all I can find, I'm working on one right now that I'm doing that, because I can't
That's
find
the only thing I
anything.
can find is that.
Yeah.
25,000 is too high though.
Yeah, it is.
25 is too high?
Yeah, that was,
Yes.
I had one, that appraisal,
Yeah,
that one that came in low today, he used a $21,000 adjustment for a 34-year-old pool.
I use
You can put a brand new pool in
15.
for. Yeah, me too, 12 to 15 maybe.
So there's a-
15 would be what you would use.
And this guy did
Take 15
21.
in
off.
general.
Yeah.
That works for me, that makes sense.
Yeah, because a value,
Let's-
a pool does not add the amount of value that it costs to put it in. So
Isn't that
if
crazy?
Yeah, if somebody's thinking about spending 30 grand on a pool, it might add 20,000 to 22 value. It's not.
Right, you won't ever get that max.
It's not dollar for
It's like
dollar.
jewelry.
It can actually be a detriment,
Yeah, they can.
because
Yeah, it's-
some people don't want pools. They don't want
I
it
think,
all.
you wanna go, Claire?
Go ahead, John. Hold on.
I just wanted now you've gotten a good idea of where the house is supposed to be, and you've gone and you're doing your listing presentation and you're discussing this stuff, and you have somebody that says, well, yeah, I see you've got my house, at 230,000, but I'm going to sell it for 285. So let's go ahead and list it for 285 and see what
Oh, I got
happens.
an answer, I'm not even on board. I just took
See
Bold
what
2.0 and
happens.
John Prescott had the
Say it.
amazing answer.
Give it to us.
that.
You're the only one.
So he said all through his career of doing it, he carried a yellow, I don't know what these are called, but.
Legal pad?
Yes, a yellow legal pad, and he would say, oh, okay, that's a great price, hold on 1 second. And he'd write 3 answers down, and he had a red marker pen. And he said he never wrote with it at all until that question came up. And so he'd have a red marker and he would write down 3 answers and then he would circle like the median basically, you know, the high and then the low and then the median. He'd circle it and he'd pass it over to him and say, I don't see it. Do you see that number? And then he'd pause. And I really almost wanted to call him out in bold 2.0 and be like, wow, that's a smart ass move. Because I mean, I can kind of be blunt, but wow. And he was like, they would look at him and he'd look at the paper. He wouldn't look at them. He'd look at the paper and, do you see it? And he would ask them 3 or 4 times and he'd still ask them, do you see it? Because I don't see it. Because he says, you know, I have to want to take this listing just as much as you want to hire me. And so he was like, I'm not going to price it for too high.
And that's using your
And then
square
he'd wait.
footage average
Yeah, I do this for
kind of.
Yeah.
Well, I have another thing that I tell people, it's like, you know, we're here for one reason, and that's because you want to sell your house, right? And then we want to sell it. So the price you're telling me, it's like, we can either list your house or we can sell your house. At that price, we're listing it, we're not selling it. If you want to sell it, we need to
That's good
price it
stuff.
here. If you just want it listed and for sale sign in your yard and, you know, people seeing it online, great, we list it at that price. But if you want to sell it, we need to be down here.
The element is you're either in the market or on the market, is the other response.
Right.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
when you're on the market, everybody's using your house for analysis.
By the way, Kirk, let me real quick,
Yeah,
going
yeah.
back to that motivation, people lie sometimes about their motivation, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? They'll sit down and they'll tell you that they don't really need to sell, and weeks into it, you find out that they really do.
Yeah.
Right? So be careful. But buyers are liars, but sellers
Our liars too.
are liars too.
Well, I always do the fishing thing, you know, I say, hey, you go out fishing, you hire a fishing captain, you know, I do that one. And so if I was the captain and I took you out fishing and I had the bait up here and the fish were down here, I said, you're gonna think I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I said, we gotta get that bait down just so they'll come up and grab it.
Yeah.
Then we can work together.
Yeah.
And then I say, you know, there's a butt for every chair. We've gotta make sure that we get the right butt for the right chair.
You need a lot of butts to come in and try
Oh,
the
yeah.
chair.
And the buyer probably didn't even know they're buying it yet.
Yeah.
So-
That whole fishing analogy too, if anyone uses the, what's the marketing suite?
Michael Lewis Marketing
Michael Lewis, they have a graphic on the whole
Don't
fishing.
they have the
listing
school of fish
and
there and
listing
stuff? Yeah.
presentation, yeah.
You all have access, by the way, to Michael Lewis Marketing Suite.
Yeah, their
Michael
CMA
Lewis
presentation has like something like the
Marketing
Target,
Suite.
and they've got the fishing, they got all those analogies.
I think you gotta let home know
Really?
if they wanna
No.
be added to it.
Okay.
You have to pay, right?
I think it's $5.
Was it Michael?
Michael
Yeah, I think you
Lewis
can. I don't
I think it's a
Marketing Suite.
one-time $5.
I thought it was free.
Yeah, it's like $5.
Why, it's free for me.
I think it's $5 a month.
It's free, it just gets, you
So
get billed at the end
let's-
of the month, like
Jim, do you
anything
remember
else,
what
you don't know.
Yogi Dini's opening 3 questions was? She told the listing people was that we're gonna come to a decision today, there's gonna be, there's 3 things we're gonna decide today. One is whether we wanna work together in selling your house. One is whether you want me to be your agent, or the third one is if I want to be your agent.
If I'd like to work with
Something like
you.
that. I always thought
That's-
that
well,
was a
that
good
comes-
prefaces.
That comes in bold.
That's
Start-
what Diana.
When you start
yeah,
getting somebody that
proposing
comes up with a
on.
high price, you're like.
Yeah,
"You remember we
I've
talked
heard
about-"
that. Well, and I think it's important when you're either a listing specialist or buyers, because buyers, it's very, very different when you work with sellers versus buyers, because a lot of buyers will tell you that they want to be this, and, you know, the criteria, and that's why it's important to do a buyer's consultation before you even take them out, because things change. And also, when you're looking at listings, or you have listings that show them, if you don't drive, I like drive over there around where they are, because that'll eliminate so many listings and wasting your time, because you don't want to waste your time showing properties that, you know, a buyer won't even look at. I had a buyer, it's really challenging, and he didn't like big trucks, you know, parked around, and you can just see the
Well, the condition
area.
of a neighbor's house can affect the
Yeah,
value of a
it
home,
really, really does.
Right? Kirk, you're gonna say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about an experience I had one time, because sometimes the best way for me to learn is just to be embarrassed. And I was
Learning.
in an appointment, and she asked me about my days on the market and price ratio, and I didn't have an answer. And I was like, oh, I don't know what my average days on the market is. And I think I remember Jim telling me a long time, yeah, you can go on the MLS. And I looked, and my average was like 32 days, and I know it's even less than that now.
Yeah.
But, you know, I didn't have an answer of when she said, well, you know, what's your average days for your listings?
So you want to know the way to not be embarrassed, it's like, you know what, when I get back to the office, I'm gonna send you a report so you can see all of this in writing, all my stats and.
Yeah, but now I've learned to look at it.
Go in.
How long have you been in this business? I don't know, what time is it now?
But it's a heck of a way to learn sometimes when when they
Well,
hit you with a question.
If we've got an inventory of 3 months, you know, if we don't have your house under contract in 60 days, no more than 90 days, then we've got a problem.
We've got a problem.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes an old
Well, what's
listing and we're
happening
chasing the
is,
market.
what I'm experiencing is it's either getting a ton of activity or it's getting absolutely no activity, and there's no middle road. It's either priced right or it's not, and if you're not priced right, nobody's gonna look at it. Because buyers are getting very smart, and they're doing a lot of their own research and their own analysis. And we didn't answer the big Zillow question, they go to Zillow.
Estimates.
Estimates, but I'll tell you something I've started doing on my listing presentations is I always look up the Zillow estimate and print it and bring it with me, because I'm finding out that 80% of the time my analysis is coming in higher than Zillow. And when they, so I can show them, this is what people are going to see. But on the other hand, if it's the other way around, I say, this is what consumers are looking at.
But you want to do Realtor.com too. You want to compare the two.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me about Zestimate, because I don't know if everybody knows this, but there's a accuracy chart at the way at the bottom of Zillow. Have you ever seen that? So if you go way down at the bottom of Zillow, they have an accuracy chart of the cities and the ranges that they're within, and the price ranges. Like for example, when I was in production, and I'd go in Leominster, Massachusetts, for example, which my closest big city is Worcester. So that's what they had: Worcester, Boston, Springfield. Those 3 big cities. Worcester, right?
Normally people say Worcester.
And they would break down the price range, and they would say, in this price range, and some of these estimates were astoundingly off. In this price range, Zillow will admit they are plus or minus 10% off.
Wow.
Now, when you're talking about a $300,000 home or a $400,000 home, 10% is $30,000 or $40,000 going either way. So they would even admit in their chart, but the consumer doesn't go down there and see that. So take some time to look for that accuracy chart.
Here's my favorite line on Zillow, is if somebody wants to, if Zillow is higher than what I'm recommending, I will tell them that, did you know that the owner of Zillow recently sold his house for 40% lower than the Zestimate on his house?
It's a true story.
It is true. And
story.
he also doesn't do for sale by owners, he lists with realtors.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is that out online somewhere?
There was
Yeah,
an
that's
article about
interesting.
how low he sold his house.
Yeah, it was
compared to his own.
40% off
Yeah,
of
it was-
his estimate.
On this.
Yeah, it was a.
Well,
it was
and I think
hilarious.
another thing that we have to deal with is that HGTV, where they go in and they buy these houses and,
Thank God Gray's
and they
going
get
out
the
of style.
granite, and you got these kids that are 20, 21 years old, and they're,
Well,
all
that's
of
what
this.
everybody expects to see when they walk in a house.
Oh, I know.
She runs a daycare, he sells Beanie Babies. Their budget is $3 million.
And we could upgrade a kitchen for $9,000.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, and it would be called Zestimate, it'd be called accurate.
Yeah.
That's
a good line.
Yeah, and I say, that statistics for the board that puts out, I always use that, how, in this price range, how many months it's taken, how much inventory is on the market, because it's a
a
real
great
indicator,
tool.
it's a great tool.
So is that, can you guys talk, is that the absorption rate? Do you guys use it?
Yeah.
Absorption rate and months of inventory, because you can explain the buyer's market, seller's market with months of inventory.
Does everybody know what absorption rate is?
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, though. I mean, statistically.
What's the formula? The formula is,
Inventory divided by sales.
so it's the number of active listings.
So did an example, 100 active listings.
There, I've got the numbers. What numbers you want for?
So it's-
How about year-to-date 2019
Yeah,
on
there you
single-family residence?
My gosh.
I mean,
Wizard.
I'm sorry.
Jim told me to come prepared. Says, look, you don't list anymore, you better come up with something of value. All right, so active listings, let's just go, I did Punta Gorda. No, I did Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, and Northport all together.
Whoa. Okay.
1,749 active single-family residences, 840 pending. In the last 6 months, 2632 is sold, so
2632.
so 5,200 in a year,
Sold. It's 2632?
in 6 months.
In 6 months? And that's in 6 months.
Yep.
So
So-
why don't you want to divide it by 6?
So divide that by 6. Somebody got to calculate what's 2632 divided by 6?
It's roughly going to be 460.
460 homes per month.
And divide that into 17.
But there are 1,749 active listings, right? So you divide that by 460, am I right? Am I doing that right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
About 4 and a half.
So about 4, yeah.
So right now,
Okay.
there are 4.5 months of inventory. So why is that important to know, 4.5 months? What's the dialogue you use on that?
Do you want your house to sell in
Days on
4.5 months, or do you want it to
Well,
sell?
at 4.5 months, we're really close to being in a balanced market. Like anything, I would say 5 or less is going to be a seller's market, and above 5 is going to be a buyer's market. So that's really close to being balanced.
Yep. So yeah, they're right. You're standing in a grocery line. You want to be. You're about to stand in a grocery. You want to be in the front of the line or the back of the line. And that, if you got a price range of 250 to 300, if you don't want to be at the back of the line, you want to be closer to that 250. But I'm being extreme. But absorption rate is powerful because when the market really starts to get shift, and this goes to 6 months, and 7 months, and 9 months, that's when it becomes a real problem.
Well, then you're chasing the market and everybody thinks there's something wrong with the house.
What was it during the recession? What did we get to? 36 months?
No, we were way over 48 at the
Yeah.
high point.
Really?
Does this
Yeah.
make sense? Absorption rate.
And it
active
was
listings?
20-some for a long time, when even when it dropped, it was
yeah.
still 20-some.
So, and we did this on a wide range, but seriously, I mean, if you're looking at a home between 250 and 300, you're going to use smaller numbers, right? Les is looking.
250, 300, you have 142 active,
142 active.
60 pending. I don't have what sold.
Closed?
Yeah.
Okay,
23 of those expired, by the way.
really? So that's a sign too.
Sign they were overpriced, yeah, for the most
But
part.
you know, I mean, seriously though, you know.
But you have over a third right now of your inventory of active that's pending.
Okay, but the point I'm trying to make is, there might be a 4.5 month absorption rate in 250 to 300, but a 7-month absorption rate from 300 to 350.
Right.
Mhm.
So you really need to know your absorption rates within the range that you're putting that person, right?
Yeah.
Generally, about 4.5 months right now, but 36 months, was it really that bad?
Oh, it was
It was
over
worse.
48.
Yeah.
48 months worth of inventory.
Back in 06 and 07, or probably 07, 08, it was over.
Can you imagine
48
sitting
months.
with a seller and going, we got a 1 in 48 month shot of selling your house?
$18 for a house? Nah, I'll
What's
pay.
that?
Do you have anybody in your family that might
Yeah.
want it? Let's start there.
So I thought this was an interesting point, because we're talking about pricing, so
Yep.
days on market, right? From 0 to 60, 650 units were from 0 to 60. Okay? 137 from 60 to 90, 94 from 90 to 120, 60 from 120 to 150, 40 from 150 to 180, 27 from 180 to 210, and 60 over 210. But you got
Days
almost
on the market.
Days
days
on
on market. So
Yeah.
you had 650, which
So
is
the
probably
first-
almost 4 times, 3.5 times the others.
Yeah.
So that says that people are pricing right, for
Yeah.
the most part, or
For
the
the most
market's
part.
still pretty high, so.
Yeah, that's when, and you're probably right about the lack of shift, but when the days on market starts growing and your absorption rates start getting larger, that's when you know you have a challenge.
This is our board inventory. So here's one, I'm looking at a report, this just came out from the board, and this is sales from April 1st to April 30th. And the $1 to $49,999, there were 6 sold units, and right now there's 8 on the market. So there's 1.3 months of inventory, and
So not a
that's
lot of-
50,000 and less. But when you
No,
get,
that's
the high
rare.
point is gonna
50,000
come, well, if you get over 600,000, it gets really high, but.
What's your 5, what's your 3 to 5?
Well, there's 300 to 350 is
See how it
5
starts really
months.
jumping up?
Yeah,
3.7 on 300, 5 on 400, and 6.8 on 500,
yeah.
so.
So see those absorption, those are months, right?
That's months of
Absorption rate.
supply.
months
And
of
also you can
supply.
see that like days on market average too is way
Mhm.
different. There's another, that's.
Yeah, those
this is
reports are
year to date.
good for people.
And so, just so you guys know too, Florida Realtors does we do classes at the board for Florida Realtors, and they're called, a lot of them are ICE classes, which is Internet CE class, which you can go in and you take it there and you get your CE credit. There's some great classes that Florida Realtor has on stats, how to use them to your advantage, and how to display different reports, where you can get all kinds of stats on Florida Realtors that are already prepared in really nice, pretty formats and all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't ever taken that class, I recommend it. And sometimes they'll have, like Cynthia DeLuca teaches it. She's going to be here in person for some classes this year. So
Cool.
watch for that one, it's a great class.
How much, wait till 5, you said?
Right.
What's your favorite objection when you're at a pricing presentation? I say favorite.
Favorite?
There are no good objections.
I'm going with the other agent.
What's some of the craziest pricing objections you ever heard?
I had a weird one a few months ago. I did a CMA on this property and I was coming up at 210. 322 in Northport, built in 2005,
Easy
1,500
peasy,
square
right?
feet. Yep, 210. I get there and they said, well, we've had 2 other agents here. Now these are friends of mine. I've sold for them before. I've known them for 10 years. Well, we've had 2 other agents here, and one told us we could sell it for 270, and one told us we could sell it for 250. And
Wow.
And I said to them, then you probably should list it with one of those because I don't see it happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In those cases, sometimes you have to, right?
And sometimes I'll say, you know what, maybe that blind man with deep pockets will come through town. The one Jim's been talking about.
So I was gonna say, when they wanna overprice something, I'm gonna, remember? I try to get them down, and finally I'm just saying, you know, I'm not comfortable taking it at that, but I'll put you on my list. Well, what list is that? Well, when the dumb blind guy with all the money comes into town, I'm gonna show him your, but the list is getting long, so.
Yeah. But I bet you've gotten listings, because I recently just got a listing, and I was the lowest out of the 2 other people, and they went with me because I didn't BS them.
Right.
They were like,
Well,
I said, you can, and I did, I said, you know, you can list with those guys, but I don't see it. Here's my numbers, man. And he said, you know what? And after the 2nd or 3rd phone call, he says, I believe your numbers. You've been straight up with me.
doing your due
So I got
diligence
the
and
list.
having
And I
real
usually
data.
will tell them, you know, you always want to be the firstborn, the second wife, and the 3rd real estate
Yeah.
agent. So you go ahead and go with those 2 and call me.
Yeah.
Not much time.
I like that, yeah, that's good.
That's a good
Yeah,
one.
say that again one more time.
Firstborn.
Firstborn, second wife, and 3rd real estate agent.
Yeah.
It's also important that you have to really be objective when working with friends, because a lot of times they don't.
Friends are the worst.
You have to be.
Friends and family.
You have to be. Yeah, friends and family. You have
Okay,
to always just be professional, because I've seen listings that friends have taken, and the houses are dirty. They're not. I mean, they're terrible first impressions, and I don't know whether the agent is not serving them by saying, you know, you need to get this place cleaned up.
Yeah.
This is a dump and it's filled
Good luck with that.
Ma.
Yeah, like it's really horrible.
Hey, Ma, clean this
Some
place
people have a
up.
different definition of clean.
I know.
And Mark
It's so
Stewart
true.
doesn't
Like-
live in every one of those houses.
Yeah.
There's something that's burning, and when I went through a cycle, again, I've been doing this for 110 years, so when I went through from a shift to a seller's market to a buyer's market, and I don't know if it's common around here, but we were telling the seller, we were putting the rock in somebody else's pocket, make somebody else the bad guy, go ahead and do an appraisal. Have you ever done that? Had them say,
Yes.
just order an appraisal, you don't believe me? Just order an appraisal.
Fee appraisal, yeah.
I'm surprised appraisals are $500 now. I'm like,
Are they that much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wow.
You can
when
get
did that
Nancy-
Well,
price
if they
go up?
get 50,000 more for their house, it's worth it, right?
Yeah, it definitely is worth it.
Yeah.
Instead
And
of them
Nancy
having to surprise them and find out
Millback,
they're
if you know
not.
Nancy Millback, she'll sometimes do
Who you
like
want?
a desk appraisal
No, give
for
it
you,
to Jim.
and
Jim.
she'll do it for less.
Really? So that's an
Yeah.
option, right?
Yeah, Nancy Millback, if you have your customer call her, she won't probably do it all the time, but sometimes she'll do a
Well,
desk
and it-
appraisal.
The thing with appraisers is there's this big thing that we're talking about. I'm on the appraisal evaluation committee for NAR, and they talk a lot about what the scope of work is. You know, because the scope of work for a lender would be different than the scope of work they're doing for a potential buyer or seller that's getting ready to sell. So the scope would be less, so they should charge less.
Yeah, a lot of them won't even offer, they, you know.
Well, because you're gonna run those, they know you, they want you to be their realtor, the only thing you can't agree on is price, right?
Which
So-
sometimes you just have to separate. John Davis, although he's gone now, always
Yeah.
said, you gotta separate the evidence from the emotion.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
is
I've
hard to
had-
do at
I've-
times, but usually when they're way over where it should be is because they're just so attached to their house.
Yes.
And I've seen agents do this where the agent will offer to pay for the
That's just gonna say, I've
appraisal, but
offered to pay
get
for it.
reimbursed at closing.
Yep.
Be creative, right? And try to get compensated for it if you take that path, right?
Well,
Yeah,
and
and you
starting
have to
out
list
too,
with me, and
like-
you can't change listing agents after.
Yeah.
What about when you have competition with other agents that say, I'll buy your house, you know, what do you, I mean, have you ever
Yeah,
you run across
I've
that? Have you
run
ever
across
seen any of them that really do it, or, you know?
They're gonna buy it for
a
like,
huge Kia guy.
yeah, they're gonna buy it like 10% below market
Right,
value,
right.
so,
Right.
yeah.
There's always a subject to.
If a customer tells me that someone that'll do it, then I say go for it, because you're probably not gonna like their price, but if that makes you happy, do it.
You're gonna start seeing that more and more with Zillow.
Yep, and
The
iBuyers.
iBuyer program in Phoenix, when they rolled that out, they had 20,000 people fill out a 53-question survey.
To sell their home.
To sell them their house. And out of the 20,000, I think they made offers on 200.
100.
Well, KW is coming out with an iBuyer.
Right, so the moral of that story is Zillow doesn't really care. They're not in the market to buy houses.
They're collecting data.
They're collecting data and selling those leads for $1 billion.
Yeah.
So speaking of technology,
Yes.
I think we all need to make sure we're encompassing the technology using it every day. Also, I don't know if you heard, but Command eventually is going to have an option where you're going to start driving out to a listing appointment, and you're going to be able to put in that information into Command, and it's going to automatically start processing the CMA for you, so it's ready in your computer by the time you get to the house.
Wow,
That's what's sort of one of the neat little things coming up with Command. And I'm just saying, if you're not using Kelly every day, or if you're not engaged in your technology, you're going to get run over by it. And right now, it doesn't matter if you price the listing if you don't get the listing.
Right.
And what we have to offer against our competition is just insanely overwhelming for the value it brings to even a buyer or to a seller. So when you can start bringing the technology aspect into your listing presentation, when Coldwell Banker or Emacs and all the others cannot do that, that's another big step for you to get that.
And on that Command thing, because I just spent the day down in Austin, Texas, believe it or not, your sellers are actually going to be able to do their own CMA through our
The KW app.
KW app.
So won't they be able to look at the comp
Yep, they
Possible
actually
home, and
grade their
then-
house against the comps.
by features,
By
not just
features.
the overall though, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
With
I know
your
it's
name
it's
on there.
mind blowing, but right, it's mind blowing. Yeah, right, with your name, so they can't call anybody else. But it's mind blowing. That sometimes you're going to have the opportunity when you walk into a seller's home, they'll already know the value of the property. They can't argue with themselves. They only have you to argue with because you're bringing something. But they're going to have the ability to do it before you even walk in the door. They will always still need us as the fiduciary. Technology is not going to replace the real estate agent.
Yep.
Oh, but you haven't seen the robot, no, I'm just kidding.
The tech-enabled agent is going to replace the real estate
It means we're
agent.
lucky to enjoy the beer.
So can I put in a plug
Yeah.
real quick for the district forum on that note?
Sure.
Mark your calendars, January.
January.
June 13th, Thursday at the Event Center in Punta Gorda is our district forum. And I've got I'm like in charge this year. I have a really top-notch technology speaker coming from California to talk about artificial intelligence and a lot of it. Yeah, he's like, he'll blow your mind. I heard him in NAR in Washington last week on just a 30-minute or 20-minute presentation. He's going to do an hour and a half with us, and he is amazing.
June 13th.
Yeah, his name is Jeff Turner. If you want to Google him, and you can even watch some of his clips on YouTube and stuff. But he's really good.
June 13th?
Yeah,
I'm
so it's
seeing
going to be at
something
the
here
event
about.
center. The whole event is from 9 to 1. If you just want to hear the speaker, then you would need to be there at 10.
That's the one that, okay, is there something going on in Naples?
No, I don't know about
I'm seeing it here, annual Realtor Assembly.
Yeah, buddy.
Anything about that?
Don't know anything about that.
So what do you guys think? You guys get some value out of this?
Yes.
Can we give
Thank you so much.
our panel a round of applause?
Something about it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Jim, put my check in the mailbox.
Thank you.
Just don't cash it till next week.
week.